that I can share with you guys after, just in a form of a PowerPoint, but I can just kind of go over a little bit of who I am, what we do, how we work with real estate professionals such as yourselves. So my name is Ryan Manhoff. I'm our brand director at New England Design and Construction. We are a high-end residential architecture and construction firm. We do both design and construction for all of our projects. We are a licensed architectural firm, and yeah, we've been partnering with real estate professionals such as yourselves to help provide an additional level of information, extra resources, etc., for your clients and potential home buyers, so that they have, if they're considering a property that requires a good deal of remodeling, or their decision to make an offer on a home is contingent on being able to make an offer and knowing what that cost is, we can kind of step in as the experts and guide them through that process. We can join you guys for showings. We can do Zoom calls, phone calls, whatever is most easiest for you guys, and we'll hopefully help facilitate you closing on the home, and then subsequently we would hope to win the project on the other side of it. We do a variety of projects. It is generally larger scale. It's pretty custom. It's mid to high end level of finish. The smallest projects that we typically do are around $250,000. That would be like gutting a kitchen and maybe some of the surrounding space, structural work, maybe a kitchen plus bath kind of falls onto that like smaller end of the scale. Or it could be more like piecemealed, scattered sort of projects throughout the home. And then on the larger side of things, we can do new construction. We can gut whole homes. We currently have a project that's about $3.5 million in overall budget, and that is like a 6,500 square foot Victorian in Brookline. So we work all over. We'll go west out to like Framingham-ish, north up to Andover, south down to like the Duxbury kind of area. But it's all larger scale, fairly custom. There's a bunch of information in that cost guide that you're seeing, which is a downloadable online resource. Just ran off some copies for you guys, but you can share it with clients, use it for yourselves, whatever is most helpful. But there's a variety of things in there. Everything that's included in the cost guide is taking into consideration like a full gut to the studs total restart. It's not like if you want to just move your laundry from this space to this space, it's going to cost you $25,000. It's assuming that we're going to be like replumbing things, new electrical, maybe doing some custom storage, that sort of thing, just because the projects that we do work on tend to involve things of that level of kind of detail and depth. And then it's set up in there so that we kind of have all the different price aspects for different parts of remodeling a home, so that you or your client can kind of build their own budget using it. It's obviously, there's a lot of room for, north and south of the numbers that you see in there. It depends on level of finish, depends on what the client needs or wants, what the existing conditions of the home are. There's a lot of factors. But it's meant to be a good starting point, so that if somebody is like, okay, my budget is, $1.5 million, we're looking at a $1 million listing, we can come in and say, the project that you're looking to do is going to cost, $400K, and then they can feel good about making an offer on their home because it fits within their overall budget. So yeah, there's a lot of ways that you can work with us, but we always make ourselves available so that like if you have a client where they're very seriously considering purchasing a property, but they're like, all this stuff needs work before we want to move in, just give us a call. We can consult with you. We can consult directly with the client. It's never meant to, scare them off with crazy prices or blow up the deal or anything like that. It really is meant to provide an extra level of information, a professional resource, someone they can know and trust, and then hopefully on the other side, leverage our services to actually see that through based on the initial quote that we give them. So when you are referring clients to us or asking questions of us, it's all coming through me. I am the first person that every client that reaches out to the company speaks with. I do all of the initial kind of pre-qualification phone calls and vetting of our clients, and set up the initial consultations. I generate every contract, and I also handle all of our marketing. So I am around a lot, so it's not like you're just going to send them into a void. We're not some gigantic company where it's going to be like one of many salespeople picks up the phone to work with your client. It's going to be me. Yeah, so that's generally, why we've been kind of, why we initially reached out to speak to you guys, just because, we work a ton in Somerville. We just finished up a passive house outside of Davis Square on Wallace Street, which is super cool. The clients have kind of funky taste. It's like it's like red and black, and they actually own a comic book store, so it kind of is reflective of that. But yeah, we can do, you know, high level of sustainability, large scale, custom, pretty much anything folks would consider. So.
Do you know a range of price per square foot depending on the quality of the renovation?
Yeah, so in the cost guide, there's a range for the cost per square foot, starting at kind of like $450 going up to like 800 plus, basically. Part of that is based on what we're doing. So on the lower end of that is going to be like an interior gut remodel of that space, but it's existing structure. If on the higher end of that is typically things that are like additions and that sort of like new space that we're creating, dormers, multi-level additions, that sort of thing. And so there is a range there even within that. Like, you know, we've done new construction or additions that are closer to like $500 a square foot. It does depend a bit on like materials, utility systems, you know, but for the most part, we're building, it's, you know, that's inclusive of like finished, move-in ready, all utilities, conditioning, finishes, materials, fixtures, all that.
Interior remodel starting at $250 to $500.
Yeah, so that would be like basements and like, you know, same level sort of stuff. And then, you know, once you get into like the $400, $500, $600 a square foot is going to be maybe second story, you know, interior remodeling or like dormers. And then the higher tier beyond that is going to be like new construction.
I understand your work strategy that is focused for consumers.
Yeah.
Do you have any price range for investors? I assume you work with investors and you should have some better price range for them.
Yeah, so we typically don't.
You don't?
No, yeah, we are pretty much exclusively working with the homeowner. Yeah, we have not done any development to date. It's clients that are purchasing typically their forever home, where that return on the investment is probably a little bit less of a consideration. It pretty much always is because nobody knows exactly where their life is going to kind of pan out. But, and we can help have that conversation with clients about like what spaces, what types of remodels you can recoup the most value from, which I'm sure is no surprise to you guys, is additional square footage, more bedrooms and bathrooms, because those are the things that immediately kind of increase the value of a home. You know, gutting your kitchen is going to have a ton of return on like your personal experience and use and value of the home to you specifically. But as far as reselling a home goes, at least in this market, you can sell a home with a pretty janky kitchen. It doesn't need to be like beautiful, always at least. But yeah, so it's pretty much always with homeowners. Yeah, we don't do anything.
Stats on the largest return depending on the renovation?
Yeah, I mean, typically, if you're doing like additional square footage, we see a pretty one-for-one return in home value on that. Unless it's like a basement, if you're like building new basement space, it's like we typically are factoring that's like half of the return value. I don't have like tangible numbers on hand for like what adding bedroom bathroom count would do for the overall value of a home. But for new square footage, we typically see people recoup that pretty dollar for dollar. Yeah. Yeah.
So I actually was pretty fortunate. I had an opportunity to chat with David.
Yeah.
A couple of years back, I was trying to actually get you guys in my BNI.
Oh, okay. Cool.
And, he gave me a little bit of history about your company.
Yeah.
Just like how you have architects in-house all the way to builders, and this makes a really kind of a unique offering
Yes.
to the clientele. Do you mind just speaking a little about that?
Totally. Yeah, no, I don't think there's a conversation that Dave has that doesn't involve the history of the architect in some capacity. So, yeah, so we are a design build firm. So we do both architecture and construction, like I mentioned. And that is a huge part of us, our purpose, like what we do. And he will talk to you about this, but basically, if you look at the meaning of the word architect, it's architecton, which breaks down to master builder. And for most of history, the architect was synonymous with the builder. They did both. It wasn't really until like the 1800s or so, with the development of the AIA, the American Institute of Architects, that the design side started to distance itself from the construction. because socially you couldn't be considered of like gentleman status if you worked in manual labor. And so they were trying to elevate themselves socially and professionally as this professional pursuit, and successfully did so. But it's created what we kind of know today as like you hire an architect, you pay for designs, and then it gets bid out to contractors and you choose the best price kind of thing. But that's, we kind of see ourselves as a return to the way it's always been done. Like all of the famous structures that you know throughout history in Greece and Africa and all over the world were done by a master builder where the designer oversaw the construction. So that is a huge part of us, is being fully accountable for the process start to finish, because you really can't have one without the other. And we're able to provide these costs earlier on in the process because we know what our clients are spending on similar space every single day. We didn't pull these numbers out of a hat. They're based on what our clients do spend. We review it, quarterly to make sure that everything is, accurate and up to date as the prices of things shift. Specifically during the COVID years, things got a lot more expensive and harder to source. And so some of that, it was reflected in the cost guides that were released those years. But yeah, it's very important for us to kind of have that unification of both sides of the industry, because you can have the greatest design in the world, but if there's no one to build it, it kind of falls flat. And frequently what homeowners kind of experience is, they'll hire an architect, they design a beautiful home, their dream home, with no sense of cost, and then it gets bid out and it's like triple the price that they had initially budgeted for it. And there's like basically the homeowner either needs to pony up the money for the project that they designed or bail, and they just have to eat the cost of those plans, which is frequently tens of thousands of dollars. So we position ourselves and have set the company up so that our clients are never put in that position. When we give them a ballpark estimate early on in the project, we mean it, and it's, it tends to be pretty accurate. Pretty much always ends up increasing just because clients see things that they didn't know they wanted until they saw it and know they wanted it, and then it kind of grows. But we give them the control to make those decisions. We're working towards a set budget from the start that we feel good about, that they're comfortable with. And then as you're making choices on finishes, materials, all the details of the project, it's with a cost comparable for each, so that they're kind of put in the driver's seat to say, hey, the $13,000 sink faucet is worth it, or, not. So that is a big part of our process, is just a return to that all-in-one design builder. It's a term that gets thrown around a lot, I think. Design build means a lot of things. It's frequently like a contractor who might have some design expertise, but they're not typically like licensed architectural firms. So we're trying to like be that true sense of design build, where we are a licensed architecture firm, but we also have in-house project managers, carpenters, folks on staff that'll actually see through the execution of the project. And then when clients do work with us, just to speak about the process a little bit, we have a team of architectural designers. They are partnered with one person and work with that person for the duration of the project, similar to hiring any traditional architect. And then on the construction side of things, they also have a dedicated project manager. And so that person is their on-site liaison. They're there every single day. They run the construction project and site. And then if the client has any questions, changes, concerns, what have you, there's always a go-to person.
How does it affect the time frame of the project, let's say, compared to different sources
Yeah.
to your in-house staff?
Yeah, it's not much different. I mean, the same work is still happening. We're fortunate. We don't have like a wait list or anything crazy like that right now. I know that became very common in the last few years, in the construction industry. So we can readily take on new projects. There's a natural ebb and flow from projects entering design, entering construction, and then being finished. So yeah, the timeline is pretty normal. Because we typically work on fairly large projects, the design process does typically take 4 or 5 months, including permitting. That time is spent not just drafting the architectural plans to actually build from, but choosing every finish, every material, going to showrooms with your designer to actually handpick those materials and items. And then, if there are weird permitting things, like we deal with like variances and special permits and that sort of stuff a lot, especially in like Somerville, Cambridge, these areas. And and then once that's finished up, we move right into construction. There's no delay between the two phases. Yeah. I don't have cards, but I do have a couple of these brochures here that you guys can grab, and then I will send you the slide deck and like my contact information after as well that you can share.
Are you okay working with lenders if someone's taking out a renovation loan and there's a whole schedule to follow with disbursements and stuff like that?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a pretty common Just something that most folks deal with on our projects. Most people don't have $700,000 in cash lying around. Yeah, it's true, but for the most part, we're dealing with folks that are either pulling a construction loan, HELOC, what have you. So less so HELOCs on like new sales because they don't have any equity, but for folks that have been in the home for a while, yeah.
Great.
Cool.
Any other questions, guys? Ryan, thanks very much.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you for having me.